This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everyone. This has been getting a lot of attention in the last few months. A lot of people talking about ketamine and how it can support your mental health journey, give you clarity, change things, change you for the better. We're going to talk about that today. What's involved in all of that? She's a licensed mental health therapist, decades of experience helping people. And part of that is supporting a ketamine journey. Let's find out more. Kim Trickey's back on the program. How are you doing today?
Absolutely. I'm doing great. How are you?
Very well, very well. And know a little bit about this thing called ketamine, which is, as I understand it, has been around for many decades and originally was a anesthesiologist's drug, if I remember correctly. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, that's correct. Yep, that's how it was originally designed to be used. However, through research, we have found that it's also an evidence-based approach that can combine the therapeutic benefits of ketamine, which also is a rapid-acting antidepressant, um, with the safety and guidance and integration of psychotherapy. So it can be very, very helpful for folks.
Hmm. So let's open that door. Why would somebody
Okay.
want to take ketamine, which by the way needs to be prescribed, and there's many different ways to do that. We'll get with that in a moment, but why? What's going to happen?
It's been found to really help with the reduction of symptoms of depression, anxiety, PTSD, emotional numbness, because it allows you to kind of get into that subconscious space, right? It helps to improve self-awareness and emotional release, which when you think about it, we build these walls around ourselves, right? We all have, different types of trauma and whatnot that we've buried in our subconscious and we tend to ignore. But when we're in therapy, a lot of times it's hard to get past the walls that people have built up around that, right?
Hmm.
And so this allows folks to just relax enough into it that they're able to open up that subconscious and work on the things that are deeper.
It's an interesting journey, as I've heard from others and just researched it, but it gives you clarity with a
Yeah.
ketamine treatment, right?
Yeah.
And everybody describes it differently. How about walking a journey with maybe somebody you worked with, maybe even yourself, where what they
Sure.
experience?
Sure. And everybody's experience is completely different.
Yeah.
So I'll start with like the whole process essentially. So I'll talk you through like start to finish. So if someone is interested in ketamine assisted therapy, um, we first initially set up an appointment with the prescriber, which is a doctor or nurse practitioner who's licensed in your state. And they're the ones that would actually assess and then prescribe the medication. The medication then would be sent to your home. And then we would either decide on doing an in-person treatment, or we also can do it virtually in the privacy of your own home. And then I would just be on video and do it virtually, just like this is. Um, and it's really, really important to have a really therapeutic, safe environment to do this in. You don't want to have a lot of distractions. You don't want to have, other people coming in and out of the room. You kind of want to set this up like someone who is really special that's coming to your home that day, right? And that someone special is the inner you, right? And so just kind of knowing that you're going to be meeting your inner you. And so maybe even buying flowers, having good music, all of these kinds of things, right? You really want to have a healthy setting for the whole situation, for the whole process and actual experience. And then there's also some safety precautions. You'd have to have either a blood pressure cuff at your home. Otherwise, if it's in person, I have one. And it's really important to make sure that we are in the thresholds for your blood pressure and heart rate, right? So there's a lot of, I always say safety first in any experience, right?
Right.
And so it's meeting all of these safety precautions. And then the type of medication, I'm partnered with Journey Clinical. And so that medication that they send to your home then is going to be a tablet. It's a fast dissolving tablet that you place in your mouth and it dissolves, and then you swish the medicine in your mouth, right? You swish for about 12 minutes and then you would spit that out. Sometimes people swallow it by accident, and no harm in that, but it would make the journey much longer, right? You would be within the medication much longer. So typically we ask people to spit. Also, when you swallow, you can get nauseous. And Journey Clinical does send along anti-nausea medication with the ketamine, just in case people tend to be nauseous. So I also say have a bowl the first experience too, just in case, you know. So, and then the person gets into the experience, right? And sometimes people bring up traumas. I've had people with like a suppressed sexual assault that they had just completely forgotten. They had just disassociated during the experience and compartmentalized that memory and kind of just pushed it aside. And so was able to bring that up, and then you're able to work through it. And then the aftercare is super important also. So then I always request people have a session within at least 48 hours as my preference after the actual experience of the ketamine so that they can process the things that came up for them and we can talk about it and they can, have that guidance, post session. Does that make sense?
So many questions here. So many questions.
Sure, absolutely.
When you work with someone, are you with them virtually during the experience?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And if I
And
do it virtually, I also have, I always require that they have um, kind of a sponsor there with them. They have to have someone there that's, someone that can come in the room and demonstrate that they're there and that they're able to come in if there's anything that happens, right? Because again, safety first. So if it's virtual, I still require that they have someone present that can be of assistance if there is anything that happens.
so I go deep with my questions.
Absolutely.
In that scenario, sponsor is nearby. I got to believe a lot of personal stuff is going to come up. You may not be close to somebody, or even if you are, you don't want them to, it's uncomfortable
Right.
for them to be there in the room. So as long as they come in, yeah, I'm here. If you need me, I'll be in the other room over there. And that's all good, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They don't
Okay.
have to remain in the room, but I also require that I get a phone number of that person. So if they step outside and something happens, then I can call or text that person and say, hey, I need you to go back in and check on them.
Okay. As I hear it, it's kind of for many a kind of a best description, a trip. It's kind of a trippy experience that somebody could potentially be on.
Mhm.
Everybody's different. I totally got you. If you swallow the med, now it's gonna. It sounds like it's sublingual, so it's
Yes.
pretty much under your tongue in your mouth. Once you swallow it, now you've extended it, in terms of time, your body's got to process it, talking hours maybe. Um, on average, sublingually, how long is the whole experience?
I usually set aside 3 hours for these experiences. The actual time that the person is affected by the ketamine is closer to an hour.
Okay.
That's
Um,
that's been my experience with folks. Some people can go an hour and a half, and it also depends on dosage. Everybody's going to have a different dosage, right?
uh,
Depending on that person and the medical provider who's prescribing for them.
how do you determine the dosage? Is it weight? How's that done?
That's the prescriber decides that.
Okay.
They typically will start with the lowest dosage, but it is based on height and weight. Yeah.
Does it get potentially emotional when stuff comes up?
It absolutely can. Yes. Um, I would say for most people, even though you're experiencing the ketamine, you're going within. It's a different experience. Some people have visuals, some people don't. Some people just fall asleep, right?
Oh,
So,
well.
I mean, everybody's experience can be very, very different. But even if they're experiencing something traumatic that's coming up for them, most of the time, we can talk through that. But a lot of times they're not really ready to talk through it. They just need that experience to come up and then we talk through it within the next day or two.
Would somebody remember what came up?
Absolutely. You don't get into a state where you don't remember anything. Like if you're drinking and you get a blackout, like you don't remember what's going on. With ketamine, you're remembering everything. You're in your subconscious, but you're not completely out of it, you know. But like I said, there are some people who fall asleep, so then they wouldn't remember as much for sure.
So I've done hypnotherapy a number of times,
Hmm.
and stuff comes up, or there's clarity in things you already knew.
Right,
Would
right.
you say that this is loosely similar in terms of accessing the subconscious?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. There's clarity that happens, but also, there is that, subconscious that can come up and bring up a memory of something that, you kind of had forgotten about or pushed aside.
Yeah, I would think that this goes way deeper than hypnotherapy because you're more in control in terms of what you want to deal with, what comes up. Let's say a childhood memory comes up, and I think we both admit that a lot of what challenges us as adults came from our childhood, and doesn't mean you had a bad childhood. It's just there's stuff sitting there. Um,
Right.
but in hypnotherapy, you could decide, yeah, I want to go there, but I don't want to go there that deep. With ketamine, what comes up comes up.
Right.
Fair
Right.
enough
It
to say
just
that?
Yeah, it just removes that, the walls that we build up around these things,
Right, right.
We build those walls for a purpose. I mean, they serve their purpose in helping protect us from things that we're not ready to process, right? Especially in childhood. But then as we become adults and we're in a therapeutic supportive environment, that's the proper place to be able to bring those things up and process through them and then heal from them.
I have to imagine that you working with people who do ketamine treatments, there's a lot of breakthroughs going on.
There absolutely are. It's
Hmm.
it's kind of a catalyst for that deeper emotional, digging into those things, right?
Is it scary for some?
It can be, especially the first time. People don't know what to expect. Um, and, I walk them through it. Like I said, we usually start with the lowest dosage so that people can kind of get, an idea of what's going to happen. And then once they've had that experience, they realize that it doesn't need to be scary. It's just, removing the barriers to get to the things that we really need to work on.
So when you work with somebody who's done a ketamine treatment, you connect with them within 48 hours. Uh, you were with them during the experience.
Right.
So things could come up. Let's say somebody got bullied on the playground, right? And that's
Mhm.
impactful, or maybe you lost a childhood friend, whatever it might be. That came up during the session. Are you taking notes, and then within 48 hours you reconnect with that person, let them talk, they don't bring it up? Would you say, all right, tell me about, Johnny, who was your friend? What happened there? Is it kind of how it goes?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And again, everybody's different. So in some people's sessions, they talk through the entire session, right? And they're actually processing some of these things as we're in the session, as we're with the ketamine, right? But other people get very quiet during it and just go very much within. And they're just kind of inward processing their own thing and don't talk for an hour the whole time. But then afterwards, I always say journal whatever came up for you. Just, and sometimes, again, people don't have visuals. And so maybe they just have memories of things that come up or maybe thoughts that are coming up for them. And then they can write them down so that they remember so we can process it further.
Is it almost like a dream?
It can be, yes. It's kind of like a dream state, essentially. Yes, I would describe it very much like that.
How often do people do this, or how often can you do it?
Um, Typically, people do a series of three. That's kind of the
Hmm.
biggest. Research has just shown that that's the most effective treatment is a series of three. But some people do five, some people do nine. It really depends on the individual. Some people do one and they're like, nothing really happened for me. I'm not really into this. I'm not going to do it again. And that's fine. Everybody's different, right? So it's a very individual thing, but three typically seems to be the pattern that's most effective.
This is a game changer from my understanding, because I had no idea that that med could be dispensed by mail
Yeah.
to somebody, and this can be done, even on a virtual basis. I thought you had to be in a room with somebody physically. I thought it was, more IV. I didn't know that, sublingual, like taking a gummy, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So this way of providing this treatment, I feel like is so much better because people can do it in the privacy of their home, right? In the comfort of their home where they feel safe, right? And, sometimes people have animals and whatnot. I usually encourage them to not have them in the room during the session, just so they aren't interrupting anything, especially if somebody's really, kind of in their subconscious and really you want them to focus on those things and not get distracted. And so, but then right afterwards, then the pet can come in the room and they feel that sense of comfort as well.
Somebody truly, truly needs to trust you, or
Yeah,
else this
absolutely.
ain't going to work. And you
Right.
are just so grounded, easy to talk with, knowledgeable. Um, like when you go to the doctor and they're like, "Well, put this paper gown on," and you're like, "Ah," but then you realize this doctor has seen everything times, a thousand
Right.
times a thousand. I'm sure you've
Right.
heard so much, because now we're in a different territory in terms of therapy here, where
Yes.
the wall is coming down. You don't have any control over it. You're going to be vulnerable, but that's why we're doing it. So you're going to hear stuff. People are going to tell you stuff, and
Right.
that's the beauty of the healing. When you have realization and you walk somebody through it. Um, Without any kind of details, names, or anything like that, some of those breakthroughs that happen, you alluded to a few earlier, but what has come up, in your experience working with somebody?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes there's childhood trauma that's coming out, sometimes it is like bullying. Sometimes it's the loss of a pet. I mean, it can be any of these things that's been traumatic that people have really buried in their subconscious, you know. Um, it can be something sexual, it can be a lot of different things, but it's really important to be able to release those entrenched patterns, even that we've accumulated throughout our lifetimes because of experiences that we've had, right?
Mm. And where does the healing take place? Now, it's come up. We figured it out. There was a traumatic childhood experience, and when we use the word trauma, I just want to preface this by saying, even things that might seem insignificant, like that one time you got bullied on the playground, could be holding you back from
Yeah.
major stuff in your adult life. You just didn't even know it. You haven't made that connected the dots. Now that that has happened, how do you help somebody with transformation?
Well, that's what I feel is the most magical part of this medicine. So you have a period of typically it's 3, but up to 7 days of increased neuroplasticity in your brain after a ketamine session. And that's where the magic really happens because that's the time that you implant new patterns, new behaviors, new ways of thinking, right? We get stuck in these negative thoughts. So this is the time that we start implementing more positive thoughts, positive affirmations, all of these kinds of things. So that time after the session to me is the magic.
Wow. I had no idea. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's almost as if there's a door on your head and it's now you opened it up and now we can access it and make positive change. How does that now let's say go with the bullying thing, just purely hypothetical.
Sure.
Um, how do we change the neuroplasticity once we figure out what's going on?
Right. So that comes up, and then we look at, well, what are the thoughts about yourself that you created due to that experience, right? So thoughts of maybe I'm not good enough, thoughts of I'm weak, thoughts of I'm not lovable or likable,
Right.
right? So then we're going to implant new thoughts. And, again, these are beliefs that we created based on that experience, but a belief is just a thought we keep thinking, right? And so we can create new beliefs by just thinking different thoughts. But we have to think those thoughts consistently. So I tell people, like write it down, put it on sticky notes, place it all over your house, especially places that you look at frequently, the bathroom mirror, the coffee pot, the refrigerator, like wherever, the back of the door, whatever. So you see these thoughts over and over again so that you are creating these new positive beliefs for yourself.
This sounds like hypnotherapy on steroids.
Yeah, I
It's
would
kind of,
say it's about that. Yeah.
because hypnotherapy, it's all about the power of suggestion. So when somebody's hypnotized, the practitioner can make a suggestion, which is the rewiring. This kind of sounds like the same thing, but going way deeper into the subconscious, because now you're you a little. I don't mean this in a negative way. You don't have so much control over it. Where hypnotherapy, you could be in a certain state, we access something, you'd be like, yeah, I'm good. I don't want to push that aside a second. Or you could just say, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Open your eyes. With ketamine, you're on the journey. This, you can't get out of the car. You have to wait for the car to get to the destination an hour later, and that's all good. That's all part of the. If you really want to, heal, that's what's got to be done. It's got
Yeah.
to be done. Wow,
Absolutely. Yeah.
amazing.
It's not as overpowering as something like a psilocybin journey or ayahuasca or the ibogaine that's coming out.
Yeah.
These psychedelics are much stronger. But ketamine is, it has its own purpose. Ketamine has kind of a longer neuroplasticity afterwards, I think, except for ibogaine. I think ibogaine might have the longest neuroplasticity afterwards.
This has been a true education. Wow. Mind blowing in some ways and in a fantastic way. Again, many of us have heard about ketamine, but I appreciate you going deep into it. And it's not as scary as I thought. It seems like so much benefit can come from it, from this medication. Kim, how do we find you? Somebody's got questions, and this is just a piece of what you offer. How do we connect?
Yeah, absolutely. You can connect through my website, which is transcendent-journey.com. And otherwise, I'm also have my other business, which is happinessnowwellness.com.
Thank you for today. This has been super cool. I really mean that. And getting a better understanding of what's out there, how it can support us and make that change. Really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll catch up
Thank you
soon.
so much for having me.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.